Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Adobe Live on this beautiful spring Tuesday, wherever you are joining us from. Welcome. My name is James Bonato, and I am joined with the talented video producer, video creator, Noah Fainer. Noah, welcome to day 2, man.
Thanks, James. How's it going, guys?
Welcome everyone to the chat. Sorry we got a little bit of a late start on our end, but welcome Voodoo Val, welcome Jerry and Oliver and Susan and Matt. We got a packed chat today, so thank you for joining us and coming to ask some questions and tune in on day 2 here. So Noah, before we get started, I know we have a lot to cover today. Just want to address a couple housekeeping items for those that are new here. If you missed the previous stream, you can view the replay on Behance or over on YouTube. So make sure to check that out. Check out Angelo Canofous, create 3D lettering using Photoshop. And this week, our creative challenges are themed. So tune into the Illustrator challenges where you'll learn how to create and use logos in the app, which I'm very excited about. It's every weekday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time, right before this stream. So with that being said, Noah, let's maybe do a quick intro. I know some people might be joining today that weren't here yesterday, but maybe like a shortened version of your intro so people can watch yesterday's stream. And then let's hop right into what you're going to be kind of finishing from yesterday's stream and let you take it away.
Yeah, sounds great. So I'll just pull up my slides right here. Yeah, so for those that don't know me, my name is Noah Fainer. I'm a video producer from Toronto, Canada. This is my face right here. This is my name. And here's a bit about me. So yeah, I'm a video producer and motion designer. Been doing it for over 7 years. I actually started when I was 16, creating videos of me reacting to scary video games and playing things like Counter-Strike. So that's where it all started. I was 16 editing those videos, but started taking it more seriously about 6 to 7 years ago. Started doing things more professionally. So here you can see some behind the scenes from some of the productions that I've ran and some of the people that I've worked with. Yeah, so I'm a freelance. I started as a freelance photographer, started doing more video stuff, and then eventually kind of expanded into motion design. Been doing that for about 4 years now, kind of throughout university I started. And I recently left my job to start focusing more on freelancing and starting my own video production company. So more like video marketing agency. But yeah, so just in the world of video, creating a lot of stuff. And a big part of what I do is creating tutorials. I just have a background and a passion for teaching. So I used to teach swim lessons at the YMCA in Toronto and at the Dufferin Clark Community Center, if anyone watching knows what that is. But yeah, and I also used to do like supplying for before and after school programs when I worked in London. So I had a background in teaching. I enjoyed it. And then I kind of moved to creating video production and video marketing tutorials on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. So I cover topics like Premiere Pro, After Effects, VFX, motion design, lighting, cinematography, pre-production, all that stuff. Here's some photos or just some like screenshots, triptychs of my work. And I'll pull up here. This is my Instagram page where I create all kinds of tutorials on how to use Premiere Pro, kind of like shortened versions of what we do.
Sweet.
And lastly, this is just the video agency that I run with some of my friends. And yeah, so this is kind of like case studies that we do for different brands and how we created content to actually, help brands establish their brand identity and their digital presence. So yeah, it's a bit about what I do.
Awesome, man. Yeah, well, I mean, for those that are joining us in the chat, please make sure to show Noah some love. He's all over the socials and got a great body of work right there. And definitely stick around today because I learned a ton about just the behind the scenes of how Noah has gone ahead and created this spec commercial for a beer company in Canada in Toronto. So Noah, maybe give us just a quick recap of what you worked on yesterday and then what we'll be expecting from you today.
Yeah, for sure. So yesterday we kind of went through these whole setup process, kind of like how I set up my folders, my project folders. So just to quickly recap what I did there. So we have the root folder, which is kind of like the title of the overall project. For me, I just named it beer commercial. But as long as it's something relevant, then you're pretty much good to go. And then these folders here are kind of the main folders that I usually create for pretty much every video project. We have the assets folder, which just contains pre-made assets, or whether it be like logos, company logos, any type of asset that I want to include in the video project will usually go in the assets folder. Footage, pretty self-explanatory, all goes in there. Music, so we have a couple different choices for music, which we'll get into later today. And we also have the sound effects folder, which is filled with a bunch of sound effects that I think will help tell the story of this beer commercial. So
Awesome.
yeah, we did that. And yeah, we chose selects here. So we kind of went over how I go about my selection process for choosing the actual clips that I like to use in the video. So yeah, now what we're going to kind of do is start piecing together the selects and actually building out the video based on the clips we chose yesterday. We're even going to get into some After Effects and kind of compositing the 3D render, because there is a 3D rendered portion of this video as well. And yeah, we're going to do some sound design. It's going to be cool.
Sweet. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to seeing where you take it. And again, to those in the chat, please make sure to send any questions. This is an open discussion here. Noah is a great resource for the marketing side of things. We were having some really great discussions yesterday just about, filmmaking and more of the technical side of filmmaking, the lighting, the grip equipment, the cameras, all that sort of conversational banter. So ask your questions, and Noah, I'll let you get started, and I'll feed you whatever the chat has to say today.
Cool. Yeah, so I guess we'll just jump into it. Picking up where we left off, I haven't touched this project file since yesterday, but one thing that I did do was I got a little bit more specific with some of the assets that I gathered for the sound effects, just because I wanted to, I just had some ideas last night that I was like, you know what, that would be a cool sound effect to help tell the story. And yeah, so right now, let's see what we got. I know that this is going to be my intro shot. The beer cans flying up with the highlight that spans across the center can. And this was actually 3D rendered. So I used Cinema 4D and Octane Render to create this asset. And I think the great thing about having the capability of, using 3D software, or, creating your own assets with, whether it be with the computer, or like however you want to do it, is that you're not necessarily like limited to, what you're able to capture in real life with the equipment that you have. Because, for example, like this shot would have been significantly harder to recreate in real life. Like
Right.
If I were to throw these cans up in the air, whoever threw them, or whatever was throwing them, would have had to move out of the way fast enough so that it's not in the shot. And then to also have the highlight pass across the can as it reaches the apex of its motion curve, that would have been extremely hard to pull off in real life. And as well as also having these cans kind of all showing the logo to the camera at the same time. Like it would have just been, it's almost like too coincidental to have. It would have taken like a million tries. So
Yeah,
I was like,
you'd almost have to like key out every single, like if you actually were there throwing them, you'd have to probably like like mask everything out in After Effects, which would probably take you longer to do than to actually create this in Cinema 4D.
Yeah, it would have been a nightmare. So I was like, you know what, this is easier. Let's just make this in 3D. So the idea here is that we're gonna start the commercial off with kind of this shot. And the reason this is like the first shot that I chose was because it's very kind of catchy. It's engaging. It's an interesting shot to kind of grab attention. And then it follows up with this shot, which is also something that took a while. You know what? Let's get rid of this music for now. Yeah. So then follows up with this shot, which is like, it's just cool visuals to really, capture the viewer's attention, assuming that this is going on social media or some type of, video marketing platform. You're going to want to, make it catchy, make it engaging, so that you actually have the viewers, watching it and not scrolling past, because, they always have the option to keep scrolling and going past your content. There's no shortage of video content out there. So we got to make it interesting. So that's why I come up with these shots like this. And another thing is that we are going to be telling a story. That's another big thing, is that what makes a video, engaging. And, sometimes you might, if you spend a lot of time on the hook of the video, which is that first 3-second portion, but you don't focus on telling the actual story, you might lose viewership, because, you had that initial visual or line or something that grabs the attention. But when it comes to holding that attention, that's when you want to tell the story, and right. In this case, it doesn't necessarily need to be some crazy elaborate, story. It's simple. It's just pouring a glass of beer, right? Pretty straightforward. So it doesn't need to have like some crazy story arc with like rising action, exposition, the climax and all that stuff. Like, it can just be some story that you're telling, because the idea here is that you want the viewer to kind of feel like, you want to remind them of what it's like to, crack open a beer and pour a glass and feel that like summer refreshment or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the order of how you tie that together, is the story too. So on a very simple basis, like the story is just the order of how that scene is coming together in those sequence.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which I think you're doing a great job of here.
So now I'm just kind of looking for different shots here that I want to continue this story with. So it's like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. So it's like we have the cans of beer thrown up in the air, and we didn't open them yet. So they're just being thrown into the air. Then it's kind of like, to carry that momentum forward, we have the can kind of blasting open,
Yeah.
Then we have the pouring of the drink. It slowly falls, and as soon as it hits the glass, we cut to this shot to kind of almost emulate or give us a perspective that we're like in the glass and we're like watching it, even though in the behind the scenes, like I showed how we had that pane of glass kind of propped up on those light stands with the camera pointing straight up. So there was no beer glass anywhere near this. So, but it just gives it a cool perspective, right?
Yeah. Well, and the audience in that situation, the hack is that the audience is smart enough to connect the dots, even if that's not exactly how you shot it. Like behind the scenes of most productions, commercial, TV, film, otherwise, use hacks like this all the time to make it seem like it's inside of something else, or it's inside this glass here.
Yeah, exactly. So I know for one time I was on set and we were doing like a food commercial, and the director before the actual shoot cut the pan, like if you have a frying pan, cut it in half so that they could stick a probe lens like on the it. Yeah, exactly, to get the shot of like this guy spreading butter on the pan. Wow. And it was just like, you wouldn't think of that like when you're watching it, like unless you're in film or something. You just like, it just feels natural. It feels like, it should happen. But yeah, I don't know.
I've seen really cool. I've seen so many. I'm sure you know who Daniel Schiffer is.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I feel like everyone knows who Daniel Schiffer is, but like probe lens got me thinking of a lot of those hacks that he would use in some of these food videos that are just like that probe lens was good for one specific thing, and it is like shooting food and shooting liquid just through something. And it still looks so cool.
Yeah, I want one so bad.
I know. That's like one of those purchases that I'll probably use one time.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can rent them, right, from production houses, or are those?
Yeah. No. Yeah, definitely.
There's certain gear that's better to rent than it is to own.
Yeah, it has such a specific use though. Like unless you're using it consistently, and doing like like if I only shot products, then I would say like, yeah,
Right.
it might be a good investment. But if it's like, if you're just doing a one-off project, then you might as well just rent.
Yep.
But yeah. So yeah, here we go. We're just piecing the story together. And this is like, I'm like kind of conflicted. What do I like better, this shot or this shot?
I kind of like the second one.
This one?
Just in my opinion, I feel like the foam is a little bit
Yeah.
foamier, I guess.
Oh, maybe this right here.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
cool,
that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah.
This. Right
Yeah, I
there.
love that. Yeah.
That's cool.
A little abstract action.
Yeah. Okay. We can get rid of that. So I'm also a huge fan of keyboard shortcuts to make editing faster.
Me too.
Like, I don't know about you, but I use the, what's it called? I switched my key bindings so that Q and W trim the end of each clip. So if I just,
okay.
yeah, so I can just like, so I do it like this. So if I have a clip here and I want to cut this end, I just press Q and then it'll shorten it. And if I go over to this side and I want to trim it from this side, instead of doing that, I'll just press W and it just makes editing so much faster.
So that's like your ripple delete essentially, or your
exactly,
ripple.
yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's honestly something that I haven't set up. I'm just constantly like Command K and then like manually clipping it off, and that just is one additional step I don't have to do. So
yeah, like for me, I have S to, instead of Command K, I just binded it to S. So I can just quickly click and then go like this and then cut it some more and go like that. Awesome. And it's just way faster.
Awesome.
And it's like these little details, like you don't realize it because in the moment it's like what, a half a second that you're saving. But you know, over the course of the entire project, maybe you've saved yourself like 5 minutes. And then over the course of multiple projects, it becomes like an hour. Then over the course of an entire year's worth of projects, you've saved like hours, you know. So
if you really wanted to get specific and like super nerdy about it too, like you could calculate how much money you save on projects. And you know, I'm a big advocate, as you are, about keyboard shortcuts, and they take time. Like anything, you know, practicing all the time and editing in a program becomes more second nature. So those shortcuts are they're part of the orchestra that is our piano down here, our keyboard, if you will.
Absolutely, yeah. So, okay, so now we have this shot.
That's cool.
But I was kind of like on the fence if I wanted to composite this in some way. I'm not sure yet, because I
feel like it would be, obviously this is like a compositing or like a post decision, but it would be really cool if that, because I love that shadow, the direction you have the light pointing on, and if the shadow and the light just change, so it's sort of wrapped around the glass.
Like if the lighting were to change or something.
Yeah, I mean, that would have to be done in post anyway, since I don't think you shot it that way, but I feel like that would be kind of a cool little flair on that hero shot, but all the little bonuses that could go on to it.
You know what? I have an idea. Maybe this portion. Maybe I just speed it up. That might look cool. So scale to frame size, because this was in 4K.
Yeah.
So I was thinking maybe like
shot.
I kind of want to speed ramp it. So let's go into time remapping speed, because I want the bubbles. I like this happening, but it happens over a long period of time. So I want to shorten it to kind of keep the momentum of the video going. So I'll probably just like this last little bit right there. Let's bring this up. Maybe 1500%, something like that.
I know, I feel like I usually just play with that whole.
And then let's stretch. Oops, nope.
And for those that are unfamiliar with speed ramping, maybe just explain what you're doing exactly here to those in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. So what's going on here? One sec. Let me bring this up. So what's going on here is basically I'm just keyframing the time interpolation. So if you think about it, um, let me try to explain this without using too many technical words. So basically, when you have the clip from start to finish, you can choose when it's fast forwarding and when it's in regular speed or slow motion. So basically here, I'm just saying, okay, let's speed it up to 1500%. So this is 1500 percent faster than regular speed. And then it goes back to 0%, which is, or 100%, sorry, which is just the normal speed that it was shot at. So yeah, we're just transitioning here.
And so 100% would be 120 frames per second modified to 24 frames. So it would still be in slow motion.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, actually this clip was shot at 30.
Right. This was the clip at 24 or 30 frames.
Yeah. So this one was at 24:30.
Gotcha.
So and with speed ramping, like the Premiere has to render out the preview, so it's usually slow. Like for me, if I press play right now, oh, it's actually not that bad. But for some cases, like if it was like high frame rate footage, you might want to just highlight your timeline and go to sequence and then press render into out, and this will render out a nice smooth preview for you, so it won't be as laggy.
Yeah, and when you zoom in on those clips too, what you were just doing is just adjusting those points to ease in that speed, so it's not just such an abrupt like cliff.
Right. Yeah. Actually, I'll mention that. So like, yeah, right here, this kind of window over here is by default, it's just a straight line. So you kind of want it to ease into the slow motion. You don't want it to just be like a brick wall where you just like hit it and then all of a sudden it's fast forward, or all of a sudden it's slow mo. You kind of like gradually transition from fast motion to slower motion.
Yep.
So awesome. I think this is actually a little bit slow. So I think I want to keep bringing it up to maybe 3,000. 3,000. Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. I like that.
Oh, yeah, that's sweet.
Maybe let's keep going.
That's cool. And for anyone who's confused or has other questions on speed ramping, because at first it can be a little bit like, where did my clip go? But I think you explained it really well. Like the more you adjust that speed, so if you're bringing it to 3,000, 5,000, it's different than if you were just taking a clip and speeding it up. Like the clip is going to get significantly shorter because you've now interpolated it to, 30 times faster than what it was shot at. So you're going to be losing a lot of the clip on the end.
Yeah. So I've had issues with this in the past, but I'm going to try it out. If I nest this, let's call this foam. I don't think I can keyframe any scale property if I do the speed time remapping as well.
This confuses me every time I do it, and it's one or the other. It's like you nest it and then you animate it, or you animate it and nest it.
So let's try it like this. Oh, that seemed to work. Okay. Cool. We're getting somewhere. So let me just render that preview so we can see it. And that's the thing with like, you kind of have to render these previews to play it back at real time, because when it's choppy, you don't really know how the speed ramping is going to look.
Yeah.
That kind of works. I like that.
Cool. Yeah.
I want to time it so that right when the speed ramp ends, we're already scaled out.
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
So maybe like around there.
And again, that's another little hack. I'm not sure why Premiere has such a problem with, I guess, creating any sort of keyframe properties, transform properties on top of something you've already speed ramped. So the workaround is nesting the clip, which is essentially just creating another little compound where they all live in, and then animating that nested clip. Yeah.
This is 4K, so I can actually punch in quite a bit. I don't think I want to use the entirety of the shot. I kind of like do something like that. And this is not like this is not like really calculated right now. I'm just kind of going based on like how it feels and how it looks. Oh, that's obviously no bueno. So let's fix that. I might have to keyframe position as well. Yeah.
I mean, the beauty of editing projects like this is no matter how much you plan it and how calculated you can be, there's always the creative side that comes in. It's like, I'd rather it do this, or maybe we can add a little bit more. And I think that's what's awesome about a lot of these effect controls and the motion controls in Premiere, because you can just elevate it to a different level and get creative with it, even towards the end of the project.
Yeah. So even like this. Wait, what's going on here? So it's up, up, up. So maybe this goes down a bit more. Oh, see, like this is just already more interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Hang on.
I feel like it's that. Something with your position.
Maybe a little easy on the, let's see. So it's a good 153.4. So maybe instead of going down all the way, we can go down to maybe 40, something like that, around there. I'm not really liking this downward motion.
Do you want it to hit a point in the middle of that animation and then finish off, or do you just want it to go from one position to another?
I was thinking kind of like slow it down. So like instead of it just going to a complete like abrupt stop, this is like the keyframe where it'll just like, it won't scale down as much. Now it's only scaling just slightly to add a bit of, movement to it. But
cool.
The thing is that sometimes these keyframes like automatically add a interpolation to it. Like here, let's see this. That's one thing Premiere does, that it'll just like automatically add, see spatial interpolation. So change that to linear. This might work now. Yeah, that's more like what I wanted.
Yep.
But maybe even less aggressive. So maybe, what was this one? 153.4?
153, yeah.
So maybe let's try 148, something like that. So it's just a little subtle. Okay, that's already feeling better.
And now if you wanted to, and I think you're going to get into this a little bit in After Effects today probably, but if you really wanted to get even more granular with those points, you would been using that word a lot, toil down the position and the scale properties even more, and then you can actually see that chart, right? So you can, you
can kind of do it here, but I think if you're gonna do like that and you want to get into like the nitty gritty of keyframe interpolation, then After Effects is definitely the place to go.
I agree.
Premiere just kind of has like a, if you want to get it done, you can do it, just like some basic stuff. But if you want to get really into it, then After Effects.
I agree.
I kind of like this. So I'm gonna just drag these out to the end so that something like that. I think that's already looking better. And then let's just render our preview.
I did kind of like that shadow you had on the full, being able to see the full beer glass. I don't know. I kind of was digging that.
Okay, so let's do a little A/B comparison here. So I'm just gonna duplicate my not and my nested sequence, and let's try that.
They should really call it a pre-comp in Premiere if it's a pre-comp in After Effects. It's the same exact thing.
Yeah, I kind of wish they did, but oh well. So we're just gonna have to scale out in that case, but I don't want to do it too aggressively, so maybe that. Oh, here's another tip that I like to do. If I'm this right here, this horizon almost looks not entirely straight. So what I would do is I just pull up the ruler, click on this thing here, and bring down a guide. So then there I can see it's a little bit higher. So I can actually rotate it just 1 degree, I think it was. Yeah. And now I think that's proper. I know that the foam core that this was on it wasn't perfectly flat. It was like a little bit bent, but I think this looks proper, and you can even use these guides to kind of make sure that it's straight. Yeah, then we can just hide them with these buttons here.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah, because with product stuff, you really need to make sure it's straight. It just looks off if it's not.
All right, we're doing a little A/B test here to those in the chat that are following along. We have option maybe 1, which is Noah's option, where we're zooming out on the bottom here, and we don't see the whole glass at the end, but it seems like maybe the animation's a little smoother. And then option 2, which we end up seeing the whole glass at the end. So any thoughts from the chat on which one we're thinking we like more?
So here, I'll label them with a color. So let's make one mango. So James, you get the mango clip.
Ooh, yeah.
And then I'm going to do teal.
All right, cool. I like that color combo is just one of my favorite combos together. So teal and orange is just the
it's very appropriate.
The goat. Cool. So let's see.
Yeah, so let's see. So this is my clip. This is the one I decided on. Goes like this, and then just kind of scales out slowly, but does not reveal the bottom portion of the glass. And James, this is the one that you suggested. So we start, same idea, except it just scales out to reveal the full glass. That's the only difference.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
I mean, I don't know. It doesn't, we're a little quiet in the chat on that. I mean, I think we can, I don't know. I think either one of them really looks good. I really like what you did with the shadow of that glass and like seeing that whole scene. So that's sort of my take on seeing that last little bit, but I think either one of them really work.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we got them both there in case. We'll just save that. And we can pretty much, this is pretty much most of the clip now.
Sweet.
What I'm going to do is we still have to color grade. We still have to do some After Effects compositing for this sort of thing. This stuff, I just did this in Premiere Pro yesterday just to kind of show you guys, but normally I will composite stuff like this with After Effects. So I'm actually going to delete that. Yeah.
Let's see, we're here in, it looks like Matt wants to have you play them one more time. It seems like we have full glass from Hudson, full glass from Rob. Full glass is what we're leaning towards.
Okay.
Like,
all right, full glass. Let's see. Here we go.
Steve wants it to be a dark ale.
Yeah. Well, a little too late for that, but
yeah.
Maybe we can color grade it.
Yeah, maybe
some type of way. Let's just render this preview out so that we can get a smooth playback. Yeah, you know, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. I think everyone's just like, I want to see all the beer in there so that I can just imagine drinking the entire thing.
Yeah. And then we have, this is the one that I did earlier. So this is just not revealing the entire glass. I don't know. I kind of, maybe I do like yours better. Maybe I do like the full glass.
My only suggestion on the other one is just that it seems like it stops abruptly before it gets, and because you have that shot, like if I was watching it, I almost think you didn't have the full wide, and that's why you stopped there, where you have this really cool hero shot that you've already done. So
true. That's a good point. Maybe if I increase it to be a bit longer, that way we can have it.
You can like sit on it for a little bit.
Because the only issue I'm having with it right now is just this scaling here.
Okay.
It seems a little bit fast, and I kind of want it to be a little bit more subtle and less noticeable. So maybe if we just like drag it out a little bit longer, and then let's see how this looks.
I definitely agree with that. So Matt says full glass 100%. Rob says, and I'd like to have the Leafs win the Stanley Cup, but we know that's not going to work out.
On another note,
I don't follow hockey enough, but I know some references.
Just don't mention the Boston Bruins, because
you'll
upset a lot of Toronto Maple Leafs fans.
I'm sure. Yeah, I sort of like that suggestion because maybe you can, you know, it just gives you a little bit of room to play with in the end if there was like a, I don't know, a graphic or a logo or.
Yeah, but I still have one other hero shot. So this isn't actually like the hero shot.
Oh,
This
right.
this is more like the sidekick, like the
True,
Robin to the Batman shot.
true. I forgot about that, and that may change things a little bit because I completely forgot that this was the shot before that hero that you had
Oops.
rendered. So um, that could change things too.
Okay, let's see what it looks like this now. Where are my keyframes? Oh no, they disappeared.
How many other people in the chat are from Canada? We had some people joining us from Canada yesterday. It seems like we got some Canadians in here, some fellow Canadians for Noah. Let's see who's representing their country. I also hate in Premiere that the keyframes, I lose them if I try to drag them all the way to the end. It just,
yeah, that's like the biggest problem I have with keyframing in Premiere.
Yep. I tend to just like keyframe everything up to like 2 frames before, which it seems like you're doing too. And then I'm like, okay,
yeah,
drag the little bit,
slide
but you
it
still
over.
can't fully see exactly how it's going to look until you render it out.
Okay, you know what? I can live with this for now. Wait, let me just try one more thing. I say that and then I'm like, okay, wait, but one more thing.
Famous last words of every editor.
Yeah, just one more.
Just one more. Like 3 hours later.
Final render version 2, final render version 3, final render.
Oh my god, before I got organized in just my life and like as early editor, and I still do this sometimes, it's just like final. Client, why? Final. It just everything just gets insane.
So I think what can help this is maybe if we ease in these last keyframes. So let's try that. Ooh.
Oh yeah, that's looking spicy.
Yeah, you know what? I like that
Nice.
now. Okay, so this, you know what? I'll make, just so that we can be non-destructive here, I'm going to put this version of that clip into the selects. And now we can delete it from here.
Smart guy.
Okay, and I can live with this. So
cool.
now we can move on to color grading a little bit, and then we can do some After Effects. Awesome. Or you know what? No, you know what? Before we get into the color grading, actually, I'm gonna composite those 2 rendered shots so that we can actually kind of see the story coming together, and then judge the color grading based on those other ones. Okay, so save everything here, and let's fire up After Effects.
Subconsciously, I feel like I probably save my project 1,000 times every time I'm in Premiere, and I don't even realize I'm doing it. I'm just like thumb finger, because I've had so many situations where stuff gets lost and you never forget it.
Yeah, you got to. There's no such thing as saving too much.
Agreed. Except when you're trying to like hoard stuff in your house. That's
yeah, that's a different kind of saving.
That's too much.
So okay, now we have After Effects open, and it's taking its time. It's just thinking.
Do you feel like you are more comfortable in Premiere or After Effects, or would you say you're like kind of 50-50 both?
Ooh, I want to say it's hard to say. Probably After Effects, I think. I've been doing After Effects for probably longer than Premiere. My initial interest was in After Effects.
Sweet.
Okay, so we got to figure out what's going on here because After Effects is not listening to me right now.
All right, well, welcome Megan, and we got some fellow Canadians. Alberta representing. We got Saskatchewan. Rob, I know you were here yesterday, so welcome back. People showing up. And again, any questions, continue sending them in. Chat's active today. We are, for those that are, maybe just joining us and getting in here a little bit late. We got Noah Fainer here doing his thing in Premiere Pro and hopping into After Effects to get another party started in animation land. So that's what it should say on a t-shirt. Party started in animation land.
It's an animation party.
It's an animation party. And
here we go.
I for one, am very excited.
All right. So the first thing that you do when you launch After Effects is a save as. So we are going to save as, where is it? Beer commercial. And we'll title this Beer commercial. Or you could also title it main. I know people do that as well, but we're going to title this beer commercial. And the reason why you want to save right away is because if you just start working, After Effects won't auto save. But if you do a file save as first, After Effects will automatically save your work and you won't have to worry about it. But if you don't do that initial save as, then they won't even auto save. So
yeah, that's a very good point.
So
just
first
chock
thing,
full of knowledge, man. Chock full of knowledge.
So where are we? So let's go into beer commercial and let's import our 3D rendered assets. So we have the beer can render. I'm just going to make sure PNG sequence is selected there. Import as footage and create composition. And let's hit import. So now we have our beer can footage. And I rendered it with a transparency layer just so that I knew I could change the background to be whatever I want it to be. So let's just save that. And let's import the other asset as well, the hero shot. Same thing, PNG sequence, create composition, and import. So now we have our two compositions. And I like to stay organized in After Effects because every time we make a new layer or solid layer, it will create a solid in your content browser. So it's just good to stay organized because it'll automatically generate new instances in the content browser. So I'm going to call this one comps. And let's just drag in those comps. And
it's a lot easier to get unorganized in After Effects. I feel like the project can get a little out of hand and all of a sudden everything is just very confusing. So this is huge.
Yeah, so let's just create raw renders folder and just throw those raws in there. So now we have our compositions here. And a quick and easy way to navigate your compositions is just to hit tab on the keyboard and you can see the hierarchy. Right now there is no hierarchy, but if I were to, let's say, throw one comp inside the other, and I had to go in it, then I could navigate by hitting tab and then just clicking like that and it'll switch comps. So it's just a quick tip. So yeah, beer can. What we're gonna do now is just create a background for this. So what I would do is go to layer, new, and then solid. Just generate a black solid and let's drag the solid underneath. And what I'm going to do is search for the effect gradient ramp. Where is it? Here it is. Gradient ramp. And now we can change this to radial. So we have a radial gradient. And then I'm just going to drag this start of ramp parameter into the center of the composition. And now we can kind of play with the colors. So I'm just going to pick some colors, maybe from the actual can, just to see how that looks. And I'm just kind of playing with it right now. I'm not like, there's no strategy here, but what I'm also going to do is make sure that my end of ramp, where is that? Where's the end of ramp?
It's in the middle there, right there.
Oh, okay. Oh, here it is. It's hiding.
So do you not have to, so if you are adjusting your start of ramp properties and your end of ramp properties without turning a keyframe on, will it still keyframe or do you have to turn those keyframes on?
No, if I clicked this little stopwatch here, then it'll automatically create the keyframe at the time that I adjusted this. But yeah, If I don't click anything, then it should be good. And I'm just going to kind of play with these colors until I find something that I like. I kind of like the,
that's cool.
Yeah, the brighter center looks cool. And you can just play with these start and end to kind of like do that. This is looking cool, but I feel like I want to add a slight, ever so slight amount of blue into this. So let's just bump up the saturation a little bit and then swing our hue over to the blue area. It's just like such a subtle hint of blue, but
yeah,
it just feels like it fits better. Where is this? Here we go. Same thing here. Change the hue over to blue. Okay.
I like that a lot. I do like that highlight coming in the middle too, because it almost acts as a little spotlight on the.
Yeah.
Ooh.
See, and this is all with computer generated graphics. Like it would be so hard to light this and shoot this in real life.
Yeah.
So it just makes it easier, especially with that little highlight there. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to throw on a Lumetri. I never can pronounce it. Lumetri.
I think it's like a tomato kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm pretty sure tomato is the proper way to say that word.
Yeah.
Everyone uses that as like the comparison, but yeah, Lumetri Color. Depending on where you're from in the world.
Now I'm going to kind of just adjust the temperature of the. So now you can see that I'm applying a color adjustment to the actual raw PNG. So I'm just going to kind of cool it off to kind of match the background. And maybe
while we're on the topic of color, Noah, Voodoo Val has a really good question about just choosing colors in general. Do you ever use resources like Adobe Color to maybe like start with a palette, or do you just go on the fly in Lumetri Color?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do use Adobe Color. I like that tool a lot for choosing color palettes. I'll also look at like what other people have done. I have this extension for my Chrome browser that lets you like it acts as like a dropper, and you can just click on people's website and like copy the hex code from the colors that they use. So like if I'm like on a website, or even if I'm like scrolling through Instagram or like Facebook or wherever, and I like see a cool color palette, I can just save those colors with the Chrome extension, as opposed to like, like you could also take a photo of it and then upload it to Adobe Color. That works too. But
awesome.
Yeah, it's just what I do.
And then another question from Rob. I believe we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but just in case anyone who wasn't here, do you storyboard these ideas with the client, or in this case, your spec work, or do you work off of a creative brief for the project?
Yeah, so for this spec project, I did do my own creative brief. I just put together kind of like a brand strategy, marketing strategy for this brand that I found at the beer store. I was just walking through the beer store, and then I saw this can, and I was like, ooh, I want to make a product commercial for it. And then I kind of went on their website, looked up kind of what's their brand identity, who are they going after, what's their target market, their target demographic. And based on that information that I gathered, I put together like a creative brief as if I were actually going to pitch this to the company. And then put together a mood board as well. So I kind of determined the colors that I wanted to go for. And then what else did I do? And yeah, that was pretty much what I did. And then I created a shot list too. I would normally storyboard something like this if I was like, if I had hired people to work with me on a project, because time is kind of more of the essence when it comes to that stuff. I would probably storyboard it. And also if I was like renting a studio or renting equipment, you don't have all the time in the world. So in that case, I would storyboard it just to streamline the process as much as possible. So to take away as much guesswork from the project. But yeah, other than that, that's basically what I did.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, it's an important part of the process, really. Great question, Rob. And I think, in just the overall pre-production of a project, as I don't even want to say simple because it's certainly not simple. You've put a lot of work into it, but as clean as like a spec video or client work, you should definitely try to follow the same process and same pre-production procedures to get in a good habit, so that when
Definitely.
you do have a client hiring you, you're ready for it.
Yeah. So right now I'm just kind of adding some curves to the render just to kind of give it a bit more contrast. It does come out of the render engine looking a little flat, so I did want it to give it a bit of contrast and a bit of pop there. I prefer to add contrast with the curves adjustment, the tone curve, as opposed to using the slider here, because I find that the contrast slider kind of takes it isolates the colors into kind of like, here, let me see if I can pull up a histogram just to kind of be able to show as an example. Lumetri scopes, here we go. Then I'm going to do the preset, this one, and then just change the waveform type to Luma. There we go. Yeah, so what I find with the contrast slider, it kind of divides the histogram into two, and then the highlights and the shadows, and then just pushes them apart from each other. Whereas, and it's not as like, the control isn't as refined. Like here, like it just kind of pushes them apart on their own, from like as if it was like an axis of symmetry along this center line here, and then the contrast just pushes them apart from each other. Whereas if you use the curves adjustment, you can isolate certain portions of the image, like only the shadows, and bring those up, or like only the highlights and bring those down. Whereas you have way more control here with each individual part of the histogram, as opposed to the contrast slider. So
yeah, that's a really good point, and visually a good way to show it, because I'm with you. I think the curves are way more powerful. They can be a little more intimidating than just, hey, I'm going to just pop a little contrast in here with the slider that says this is what I'm doing. But I think once you get the hang of the curves, they are very, very powerful, and can adjust things a little bit more specifically and granular than globally, right?
Definitely, yeah, you just have more control over it. And then in terms of like adding a grade to this, I wouldn't really add a grade, at least not here, because I think my goal more so with the color adjustments I'm making right now is more for like, how do I say it? It's more for just kind of like getting a base. And then when I want to actually go into grading, I'll just jump back over to Premiere, so that way I can match the shots, match this with the rest of the shots. Because if I just do it now, I don't really have any reference unless I flip back to Premiere, or like import the footage. So that's just like how I like to do it. And if anything, I think I might speed ramp this a little bit too.
Yeah, because it seems like if it can fall really quickly and then you get right into the next clip.
Yeah. Okay, so let's save that. And then maybe, I think I want to brighten this one up a little bit. Brighten these edges up here, because I want it to be very subtle. That works.
Now, I'm not as familiar with 3D as you are. So in creating those cans in Cinema 4D, can you add shadows, or is that something that you would now do in the render? Like those cans, coming up out of space, like if there were shadows
underneath them,
the cans underneath them, given, timing that takes. Just wondering if that's something that you would do in Cinema 4D or you would do in After Effects.
Yeah, you can. You would have to do that in Cinema, because in After Effects, like I think you can't really make shadows cast onto, like there's no geometry to cast the shadow onto. So if I were to do it in After Effects, I would just bring in the drop shadow like this, and then just adjust the distance. But that doesn't look real. Like, I mean, maybe it kind of does actually. It's not too bad. But hang on. Let's just play with this a little bit. Maybe that does add a little bit of separation. Maybe lower the opacity to like 20%. That's okay. But this is that's more of like a stylized kind of effect. It's not so much an actual it's not like real shadows. The drop shadow effect is not like real shadows. Whereas in cinema, what you would do is basically have a plane as like a flat surface underneath the cans. And then you can create a certain material with Octane Render called the shadow catcher. And basically the light source, which is, well, there's the light source above the can creating this highlight. But then I also have a light source on this side of the frame, over here on the top of the frame, and then on the left side of the frame as well, because one, I wanted this light source on the right side to cast some light and to fill in the shadows here on this can right here. And same thing with this, the top of the lid here, I added a light source coming in from this direction in 3D to cast some light on the top of the can. And also, without light, you wouldn't be getting this kind of like RGB kind of split on the material.
Right.
So you need light sources to actually create that effect. If it's just in complete darkness or there's no light being cast onto the material, then it won't have any light to refract into that cool pattern. So that's that. And now let's jump over to the hero shot. So this one will be fun. And yeah.
I love the way it comes in and falls like that. It's sweet.
Yeah. Just added a little bit of rotation to the can. And then, although one thing that you might be a little hard to notice is that this can actually, it slightly goes into the ground there.
Oh yeah. It's so heavy with beer. It just, yeah, you don't even know.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's sand. We don't know what material this is.
I was going to say, like, the material is still a little unclear, so it's okay.
Yeah, I was kind of going for abstract, and actually the material that I used was marble. So this ground material is marble. According to Octane Render, it's marble, or whoever made the material, because I bought it from a material library.
Nice.
So the marble material, and then these trees, I just applied the same material that's on the can to the trees to kind of make it fit. And also I was purposefully going for like an abstract look. So I didn't want the trees to look like actual trees. So I wanted it to kind of be that reflective iridescent material. And I just created a sun in the background. And then I added these mountains here in the back so that it creates a nice like composition that kind of, guides the eye towards the can over here on the left side of the frame, leaving enough space here for like maybe a logo animation or some type of animated text on screen there. But
I love that.
But that's the beauty of 3D.
I love that depth too, because I feel like in looking at it, like I can already sort of imagine, I don't know, somewhere on vacation, somewhere in the desert, Arizona. You could literally be anywhere. But it definitely puts you into that scene. So it's really, really cool.
Right. Yeah. And that's kind of like the idea I was going for, kind of like a sunset vibe, some hot summer by the beach, but at the same time also being a little abstract and not being so, showing trees with regular tree materials and like sand and like that sort of thing. I wanted it to be a little abstract, a little bit different with it. So I tried to just mix those two ideas together. And this is kind of what I came up with. So
I dig it. I dig it a lot.
So yeah, now I'm just going to make some adjustments. I might even just up the temperature a bit just to kind of give it that like warm feel, just slightly. Even bring up the highlights. I think I want to do some of that. And around there. Lower those shadows, bring in some contrast slightly. Saturation. I think the saturation was good where it is. And then I'm going to go to what was that? That's
I think I do that all the time. I'm like, that's where I wanted it to be.
There we go. So yeah, now let's just do some curves. I'm also a huge fan of just like contrast in my work. Like I like contrasting colors. I like contrasting tones. I just like contrast.
I'm with you. I agree.
So I'm just kind of going for what feels right here.
And it's so important to have these scopes up. Like I was on another stream. I don't remember if I was hosting or if I was a guest on it, but we were talking about scopes and kind of the importance of, like, if you've never color corrected, it's very useful to make sure that you're staying within those, you're not clipping any of those highlights and you're not losing any of those shadows. But as you continue to do it, it becomes more of a creative decision. So you don't necessarily have to crush the blacks or, you know, have the whites all the way to 99. You can kind of keep them where you feel like they fit best. So
right. And one thing I might also do is I'm just going to play around with this. We'll see how it is. I'm going to create a new solid, and I'm going to create like kind of like a lens flare. So I'm just going to name it lens flare. We'll see how it looks. If it looks good, we'll keep it. If not, then we'll scrap it. So I'm just going to go to generate lens flare and put it up there. And let's change the blending mode to add. We'll see what kind of effect we can get with this. Maybe up here.
It's got, yeah, I like it sort of in the center. Ooh, hello.
Just a bit of sunlight, but I don't want too much. Let's also play around with these different ones. Wait, let me just put this. Might have to change the color of that, but brightness. Let's switch this to add. Okay, way too bright. But one thing we can do is also throw on a levels adjustment on top of the lens flare effect. And now we can tweak it a bit more. Fine tune it. And maybe I'll even do a hue and saturation effect. And let's just go back to normal. Just make it kind of warm.
After Effects blows my mind, even being in it all the time. Like, it's, you can do so much and adjust everything that you can possibly think of inside of After Effects.
Right, for sure. So just a bit of sun. Maybe let's play around with, nope, go back. I'm gonna lock this layer. Can I adjust it still if I lock it? No, okay, never mind. Lens flare, here we go. Just see where it looks, what it looks like from different spots. I think up here was kind of,
yeah,
it works better.
I think it feels the most balanced too, you know, it just feels like maybe the most realistic too, just given the source of that sun.
Yeah, exactly. So like the sun is around here. It's actually right there. It should be right there. But it kind of, I think, works in there.
We have a question in the chat, especially using effects like this. Voodoo Val says it's so easy to ruin a piece with a lens flare, but this is looking so great. Any tips on not going overboard with an effect like this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think all effects just need to be used like subtly, you know? Like there shouldn't be an effect that's like glaringly obvious, like, oh, they used this effect. Right. Like even when I'm thinking about this, the only reason why I wanted to use a lens flare here was because I wanted this kind of like the flare to happen over top of the can and over top of the 3D render. Because I think there is a way to do it with in cinema, like to actually get lens flares. I'm pretty sure, I'm not actually too familiar with how that process looks, but I think you can do it. I just wanted to kind of have like that layered effect, just like a little bit of, you know, just a little bit of extra, you know, you always want to enhance the image. You don't want to distract or take away from it. Whereas like if I had a glaringly obvious lens flare, like then it would just kind of take away from it as opposed to like helping it. And then I might even go in and lower the opacity here. Just so that
the goal is to, you know, hide certain things. Like they're there, but they're not in your face. There's certain times where you want it to be stylized that way, but I think it does take practice to get to a point where you know what looks good and you know what looks too much. Sweet.
Yeah. And I'm pretty happy with that. So maybe one thing I would just do is play around with the color wheels just to see what it looks like. Add some blue to the shadows. Let's try some red, some orange. And I do like that orange because again, it's reinforcing that warmth, summer kind of feel. So I think in this case, I'll actually just, it's so subtle. Like even with this, the shadows, like you can barely see the adjustment that was made, but it's just warming it up.
Yeah.
Because those shadows were pretty blue, and like, I do want this to feel like a hot day or something like that, you know? So yeah, I'm happy with this. So I'm gonna save it. And yeah, another thing that I would like to mention though is that when you're dealing with effects in After Effects, the stack of layers matters. So like the layer stack here, it matters. Like I can't just put this above here and then start mixing these up because it totally changes the way the image looks. So we start with the lens flare, then we do the levels adjustment, then we adjust the hue, and that in that order. So that's important too, to know that it's like when you're dealing with effects in After Effects, it's like a procedural thing, you know, do this first, then this, then this.
Yeah, that also I think just helps mentally not to get overwhelmed with After Effects, because I know a lot of people who, and anyone in the chat that feels overwhelmed being in After Effects, it's really not overwhelming when you think about it that way, where you just think, okay, let's start with this effect first, then we're going to move here, then we're going to move here. I think it's easy to see a finished product like this and go, oh my God, like how did they create that? And then when you start to dissect it, it becomes a little bit more manageable. So I think that's important.
Yeah, definitely. So so far this is looking good. I'm happy with the way both of these have kind of turned out. I also kind of like how this is like the first shot and this is the last shot. So it's kind of like we start off with like a cooler vibe,
Yeah,
you know, because it's like a fresh, cold beer. But then it's like we end with the hot summer day to kind of make it feel like, you know, the cold beer on the hot day, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's just what I'm thinking here. So now I'm going to jump back over to Premiere Pro and I'm going to show you guys how to import. See, we're already getting a little messy here. So let's actually clean this up. So I'm going to create a new bin and we will title it, we'll just title it assets for now. Just drag these guys in here. Foam clip, that's a sequence. So it'll go in sequences. Color matte, we can just put that in assets. That's fine. So yeah, let's import the After Effects project. So you can just, the way you, same way you import footage, you just double click your content browser or go to file, import, and then you can actually click an After Effects file and then open it. And now it's going to ask me what do I want. So I'm going to click those. I think, can I do both at the same time? Maybe not. But then I can click those compositions and it'll actually pull in the composition as if it was a piece of footage. Just like that.
Yeah, that's a great trick too. Plus then you're not exporting that asset 2 times.
Exactly, yeah. And the nice thing about it is that we can actually make adjustments to the After Effects project, like over here. And if I just hit save, it'll automatically update the clip in Premiere. So let's bring that in. And we can just put all these together. And let's see. So let's bring this here. And I'm just going to quickly do a render preview so that we can play it back nice. Well, actually, this one's playing back fine. Before I do the render preview, what I'm going to do is actually do a little time remapping because I kind of want it to speed up and slow down. So I think right when it reaches that apex from here to there, and then everything else can be fast. So this part gets confusing because when you're messing with the speed curve in Premiere, it'll automatically shorten or lengthen the clip depending on, what kind of adjustment you're making. So if you make too drastic of an adjustment, it'll shrink your clip to like nothing, and you won't even see it anymore. So like you just got to be careful of that. So what do we have this one at? It's 800. Okay, let's bring this to 800. Around 801. And another trick, if you want, instead of going like this, highlighting everything, dragging it over, you can just hit W and it'll snap everything back.
All these time-saving tricks, man. Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is cool.
That's sweet.
With now I could just add that little bit of what's going on here. Just that little bit of ease to the animation, or to the timing. Ooh, there we go.
Oh yeah.
There we go. Now it's coming together.
I feel like I was watching that yesterday with this like in my mind. I'm like, okay, this is gonna get speed ramped, and it looks really good.
See, and imagine like you're scrolling through your phone, and then all of a sudden, boom, this thing jumps in your face. You're gonna be like, whoa. Yeah, what was that? Right. Like, let me keep watching. And then the next clip is this. You're going to be like, whoa, what's going on here? This is crazy. So that's my thought process, at least.
I agree. And I think like as an editor, it's sometimes hard you almost have to like admit they're not mistakes, but you have to admit when something is dragging on or something's maybe boring. And it's hard to sometimes admit that like a clip that you thought would move a little faster doesn't. And so you just trim the fat. And I find that if I'm watching my own work back, and I, at any point in watching something back, find myself like unengaged or like disinterested, I know that a random stranger who's never seen my work is definitely going to lose interest. So I try to use myself as a gauge in that way, and just like trim as much as I can.
Yeah, no, it's important to do that, because if you're like, you can't be so, married to your ideas. And like, I know it's sometimes hard to admit it to yourself, like, oh, this kind of not so good, but it's that's how you get better, right? Is being able to pick out like what is good, and like having a sense for like, oh, this will work, or oh, this won't work, and that's just something that you develop over time. It's not so, you kind of learn that with experience. It's not going to be so obvious.
Yeah. Getting the work out there and letting somebody see it, and having people give you honest feedback is definitely helpful. Although sometimes it may hurt your feelings, it's not intended to, and it just makes you a better editor in the end.
Yeah. And like, I love when, whenever I'm asking like people for feedback, they're like, oh, don't take this the wrong way. I'm like, no, please be as harsh. Yep. Be brutally honest. There is absolutely not a word you can say that will offend me. Like, please destroy my video. Like, it'll make me better. This is for the greater good here. So let's just do it.
I think in doing this for a long time, like I've gotten to the point where I can take the criticism depending on who it's coming from, and the feedback again depending on who it's coming from. And I try to get feedback from people who know nothing about editing. They're just in it for being entertained, and if they're entertained, then I've done my job. But if I get feedback from someone who's nitpicking like a creative choice that you feel strongly about, I think that's when you're then able to say, hey, like I have the experience of doing this professionally. I think this looks a little bit better and will work. But again, like the feedback is definitely taken with a grain of salt, depending on who it's coming from.
And it's important to have people that in your life that'll give you that honest feedback and that won't sugarcoat it. I mean, like, you can't, people obviously they want to be nice, and they know that you worked hard, and that, they want you to feel good about your work. But at the same time, like you as the editor or as the creator knows that, you have to hear the truth in order to improve, right? Like,
absolutely. Oh man, I remember during my time in film school, it was a constant feedback party all the time. And it taught me a lot about just how to receive criticism and how to take it like we're talking about, to get better.
Yeah.
And then there'd be times when we'd be working on projects and we just go around in circles so often that I'm like, I don't even think my idea is any good anymore. Like I've just decided it's not good. And so there's certainly a balance that I think you as a creator have to take, where if you're passionate about what it is, the story that you're telling and what you want to do, then you know exactly what you're looking for. And then you take feedback along the way just to make it stronger.
Yeah, for sure. So right here, I'm just kind of scaling this in because I don't know if I love my like thumb in there. So I'm just gonna scale this in.
Yeah, get that thumb out of there. We don't want it.
We don't want the thumb there. We want the beer.
Jonathan says he can't ask his wife for any feedback. Oh, Jonathan, that's a bummer. My wife and I work together, so all we do is get feedback from each other. But I can see where that would be frustrating. And Matt says that you're always going to be your worst critic.
Yeah,
couldn't agree more.
Okay, so now we can start color grading this footage. So I'm going to jump into the color tab over here, and I kind of just trimmed it a little bit because I'm also thinking about pacing. Like as I'm editing this, I'm like, okay, what's the pacing of this shot? So we kind of have high energy, and then to be honest, I think this is it's high energy and then it's low here. So what I'm going to do is after I'm done color grading, I'm going to add some like scale in and out just to add a bit of motion, so it's not like a static shot. But for right now, I'm just going to deal with the colors. I think this might actually be a little cooler than I would like it, but let's see what we can get with this. So I'm going to pull up my scopes. Sometimes it glitches out like that, but I find that if it's not showing up, you just hit play and then it'll show up.
Do you, before you get into color, Noah, do you find that, because I know you're going to do color and then get into audio before we wrap up here today, in this case, it seems like audio was the secondary thought that you were going to use to paste to the clips you've already cut. Do you work like that always, or does it kind of depend on each project?
So I've had discussions about this before with people on TikTok commenting on my process, but pretty much what I'll do is I'll cut the clips up to kind of find a pacing that I feel suits the visuals, right? Because the music, I can't really change the music, but I shot the visuals. I know the visuals well, and I know kind of what the vision is. What I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the clips that I want, and then I'm going to choose the music afterwards that best fits, and then I'm going to refine the clips and make some slight adjustments so that it's still on the beat, because I still want it to like cut on the beat and feel like it fits the music. But I like to go through the actual selection process first. I don't like to be like restricted to the music as if like the music is what's going to decide how I edit. I want to edit the way I want to edit, and then I take the music and try to fit it into my edit as opposed to the other way around. Gotcha.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. Seems like we had a question in the chat about that, Jonathan. Hopefully that answers your question. And I bring that up in a lot of different streams, and I kind of am the same way in my own work as well, Noah, where it sort of depends on the project, but it is important to make sure that the visuals stand alone on their own, pace the way that you want them to. And then if you have to tweak certain things depending on the music, that would be what you do after.
Right, exactly. So yeah, right now I just I'm white balancing first things first. So the auto white balance, like I'm not really happy with what the result it's giving me. I feel like it's a little bit on the green side. Maybe I'll just drop this to -1 instead. Feels a little better. Okay. And I'm paying attention here to the histogram because I don't really want anything to clip. So I am noticing that I did clip something there. So I'm just going to bring that back down. Or no, where is that? It's with the whites. But this feels too dark. So you know what? I think in this case, what's clipping is this highlight here. This little highlight. So
it looks like you have one tiny little highlight inside the actual beer liquid at the top, which doesn't really seem like it's too apparent. So
this on the histogram here, this big white line is all the white around the can, and then the can itself and the liquid is this stuff in the middle. So I kind of want to push the highlights up to make it like a nice clean white. And then, but I don't want to blow it out. So I'm going to kind of add a bit of protection to the highlight over here with the white slider. But I'm going to add contrast with the curves. So I'm going to jump into curves now. And then I don't want the can too dark. I am going to bring this up a little bit. And a trick I like to do is just add an anchor point to the tail end of the curve, the tone curve, and then just bring the last little bit up just to kind of act as like a safety net for those blacks so that they don't crush. And then I'll do the same thing with the whites, just a little thing there. So then, and then now I have the mid-tones to kind of mess with as I please. So I'm going to bring this down a little bit because I do want that contrast. And one thing I noticed that I do want the kind of the color of the beer to actually stand out a bit more. So what I'm going to do is going to grab my dropper, click on there, and this is under the hue versus saturation color curve, and just holding shift to isolate this anchor point here. I'm just going to drag it up so that we have a nice saturated beer. And to me, it does look a little on the green side, a little slightly shifted to the green. So I'm just going to do the same thing on the UV hue and push it more towards red and further away from green just to get that color back. And then, yeah, before and after, there we go. That maybe a little less. And I think that works. But yeah, already the can is already looking better. And let's just punch in a bit because I don't know what this little thing is here. So, and we'll bring it up. I'm just using the arrow keys. And lastly, what I think I would do is scroll over down to the color wheels and match. And then these highlights, where's my scopes? Just cool it off a bit with by adding just the slightest amount of teal into the highlights, because I do want to match these. But now if I look at it side by side, these are clearly not matched very well. So I'm going to go back into After Effects. And the nice thing about this is that I can just take this, drop the saturation a bit. And I think it's actually, let me see, is it warmer?
Yeah, it looks like I like the color of your clip, but I feel like if you had it that blue, it may be a little too cool on the right clip.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm going to try to match this one to there. So what I'll do is make the hue maybe warmer like that, but then bring down the saturation because I just want like the ever so slightest amount of, and then just to copy it over, I'll take the dropper, click this one, but there's no contrast anymore. So let's go over to the brightness and let's drop it to kind of keep that look, which I think works.
And again, like the benefit of what you did earlier, where you actually brought the files in from After Effects as project files as the comps, allows you to come in here, make these adjustments, save it, and then it'll automatically adjust to the clip that you have linked in Premiere.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I might get rid of this drop shadow too. But because it's kind of ruining the effect of like the highlight in the middle. So I'm going to delete that. And now when I save it, I can just go over to Premiere and, oh, look at, wait.
Oh,
that was pretty cool. Yeah, I was like, that was a pretty good match there. But if anything, I think I might actually take these highlights and try to tweak them to be a little bit more like that.
That's a lot closer.
Yeah, it's already looking closer. Maybe even the midtones. Yeah, see, there we go. Yeah, this feels better.
Yeah.
But there's something about the can though. The can feels a little warm. So maybe in the shadows, I'll cool the shadows off. And that should bring
And could you, if you either pulled the shadows, yeah, that definitely helps. Or if you
Yeah.
do you work with masks a lot in Lumetri Color, or do you tend to just use the color wheels in that situation?
Like you mean for like these color wheels?
Well, like yeah, like those color wheels, or in that case, if the can was maybe the only spot that you wanted to adjust, would you create a
Oh,
mask around it, or would you just
yeah, like it depends. If the, like I would try it, I would try to avoid masks if I can, but if I like absolutely have to, then I would. Like another option, I can let's just undo that. Another option, let me just go back to my comparison. Yeah, would be to go over to HSL secondary and then make a
hmm,
selection, isolate the can just by like doing this. Oh, maybe without this stuff. See, then it's kind of hard this way too because it's gray and then the background's gray, but you can sometimes play with these to kind of get it where you want it. Add some denoise, add some blur, and let's try this. Add a bit of blue, and that
hmm.
that actually
Yeah,
works.
yeah, that was perfect. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's subtle enough where you're gonna see it for,
yeah. Like
maybe a
there's the before
second.
and after.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, now these
Yeah, yeah,
shots
yeah.
definitely already feel like they belong together a little bit more.
Right, right.
Maybe even if I want to get very particular with it, the vignette, and just a slight. No, maybe not. No, maybe. No, forget it. Maybe minus 0.1. That's it. Yeah, they're already
Sweet.
feeling like they fit together. So now we can move on to this one. Okay, now this, I don't know if this will actually work, but we'll see. Let's try it. If I do the comparison view and just click apply match, it'll analyze the clips and then just automatically do it. But
Mm,
maybe it gave a good place to start,
I
but I
feel
don't
like
know.
I feel like it looks like it gave a good place to start with the highlights. It's honestly just it looks like the
Yeah,
color temperature. Although it didn't look like it did anything.
no, undo that. Yeah, we need some warmth in there. So I think it, maybe if I drag the midtones out to here.
No, as you're continuing this, we have a
Yeah.
question in the chat from Tyan. Sorry, Tyan. I hope I pronounced your name properly. Wants to know how you got started on social media. How you got your start on, I guess, your most prolific social media account.
So I guess that would be, I've been on Instagram for like 6 years or something, and like I wasn't really like doing much on Instagram for the longest time. It was only until TikTok came out, I kind of experimented with those videos. Didn't take it too seriously at first, but then like as time went on, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'll try to explore this a bit more, and just see what it's all about. Because for me, it was like I just wanted. I love video, so it's like there's this new type of content, short form video content that's like all the rage now. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let me figure this stuff out. Like what's going on here? Try to understand it. So just to kind of keep with the times. And I had a lot of fun making it. So then I made one tutorial and then it got like 70,000 views like really quickly on
That's
TikTok.
awesome.
Yeah, I just like the simple wire removal tutorial on After Effects, just how to use the effect. It was pretty basic, but it was just like it took me like 15 minutes to make. And then it was like boom, 60K views. I was like, I never had a video in my life get that many views.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
with my own brand. So I was like, oh, okay, that was, they always talk about in business, they always talk about the 80-20 rule, like 20% of 80% of the results comes from 20% of the effort. So for me, I was like, okay, maybe I'm starting to identify, the 80-20 Pareto's principle in my life
Yeah.
at the time. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm just gonna roll with this. I made a couple more videos and they just popped off too. So I was like, yeah, this is fun. And then people were actually like starting to message me from like Brazil and like Morocco and stuff, being like, hey man, like your videos are so useful and like
That's
they helped me
awesome.
learn so much. So I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like reaching this type of audience, like I would have never have gotten an opportunity like this outside of, this new social media. So not only was I like interested in the beginning to kind of explore, but it just ended up working out for me. So I was like, I'm just going to keep doing this. And I've been having a lot of fun, been meeting people, getting new opportunities from it. So I just, yeah, just kept going with it. And here I am now
I love
doing my
that.
thing.
Well,
Yeah.
it's very cool. I think the dynamic of where video is today is different than it was even 5 months ago.
Yeah.
It changes so constantly, and I think if you're a passionate video creator, like you clearly are, and it's a great place to share the short form work, share these tutorials, and continue
Mm-hmm.
to evolve in the process. I think it can only be a good thing for the future, and I'm excited. I'm both like, especially with Instagram and the vertical format that has taken over in video, I think it's pushed me to think about short form content a little bit differently than I used to as well. So it definitely helps push the boundaries a little bit.
For sure.
So no, you got about a little less than 20 minutes left.
Okay.
So just keeping you kind of in check here. I know we're working through your color correction, and then I'm sure you're going to want to go in and touch some things up and do some audio. And then we have one other question in here from Voodoo Val as well.
Yep.
What were some content engagement mistakes you made, or things you didn't expect to do well but did? So clearly that video is one of them.
Content engagement mistakes.
Or anything that you created that didn't do well, maybe that you thought should have done well, or
I mean, that happens all the time. You think that a video is going to do well, and then it doesn't do well, and this video that you don't think is going to do well ends up doing well. So it's like
that's
you
true.
don't. You get it's hard to really predict. But I just find that making content that I think, like when I asked myself certain questions when I was like a beginner at like making videos and that sort of thing, like I just asked myself like, what would I want to know when I was in this position? And then I'm just like, if I could tell myself, my younger self, my younger, more inexperienced, naive self, what what did I want to learn back then I create videos and content around those topics, and those seem to do really well. And I think the mistake that I made maybe a little bit at first was creating content kind of like for myself in a way, and just creating whatever I wanted to. And like, yes, I think you should do that, and it's important to create content that you enjoy, but you also kind of have to find the middle ground of like where what the market wants, like what people wants, because you want like you want to create content that other people are going to enjoy too, right? Like you don't just want to, if you're just creating whatever it is that you want to create, then like that's good too. And I think it's important to do that stuff, but you have to recognize that there is a bit of trade-off there when you're like,
That's
you
true.
you create content that other people want to see, and you want to provide value. Like I genuinely do want to provide value to like the people that watch my videos, and actually give them tips that they can use and become better creators because of it. But at the same time, it's like, there are videos sometimes that I'm just like, I just want to make this, and I'm just going to make it, and I don't care. And like there's a bit of both. So finding that balance, but also recognizing that you have to create content for like a certain market. So like finding the content that you want to create for that market that you enjoy, but that you can also provide value with, I think that's important. So
Absolutely, man, couldn't have said it better myself. I completely agree with the value add too. I think that's like the biggest key. No matter what content you're creating, whether it is for yourself or for appealing to a demographic or a niche, like everything should. I think the stuff that takes off is the content that provides value. And I've created tons of things that I thought in my head were like entertaining, but there was no value being provided. And so nobody's going to continue to watch it and stick around. And so you're right. Once you find that balance, I think then it's just continue making videos, continue putting them out there, and seeing what works and what doesn't.
Yeah. And it's like, it's a lot to ask. I think it's like a big ask to ask people to, sit there and watch your video for however long it is. So, if you're going to ask that of somebody, then you should be, giving in return and providing value. So like it's a two-way exchange. You're not just going to post content and to just expect everyone to only care about your content, and nothing else, right? Like it works both ways, right?
Absolutely. And these look great. I feel like the one clip, like this one right now, that seems to be the only one that's a little, it almost looks a little like green and a little dark to me. But other than that, I think all the other clips look really well
matched. This is why we didn't have any curves. That's why it's feeling a little better. Okay, I do want to get into a little bit of sound, so I think I'll move on from the color because I do think sound is so important. So anyways, I have a folder of music, and usually when it comes to choosing music, I'll set my in and out points on the timeline, and then I'll click loop playback and just let it play. And then I'll go on like wherever I find my music, the music library that I use, and I'll just like pick through different songs while I let this play. And I'll just be like, okay, what do I feel like works with this? And then I'll pick a couple different options. And then what I do is I'll bring them into Premiere, save them aside, and we'll see what fits better. So I'm just going to drag them all out onto these timelines. And mute to them. I'll lower the volume here. And let's see how. I do like that.
Yeah, it's a vibey jazz riff. I dig it.
Yeah. So I'm also gonna look. That's really cool. I do like that little.
Yeah, me too.
Because it's only a 15-second commercial, right? So I'm like looking for that little snippet of the track that will like really like, drive this home. So I think I do like that. And then I'm going to try to time, like if there's a drop or some sort of like epic part of the track, I'll try to kind of match that and like move the track around to the part of the visuals that I think would be like appropriate for that part of the song. So like this big hit, this big like drop here, I think would work well with this shot here. So, and this is what I mean by like, this is why I like to choose the music and deal with the music kind of after I've got my clips in order, because then I can, like, the story is the story, right? Like this has to come before this and this and this and this in order for it to be a story. So it's like, I want to make the music fit the story, not so much the story fit the music.
Right.
So even that, like, see, and there's just not enough track at the beginning there to kind of, that kind of works.
Yeah, that's cool.
Maybe
yeah, that can work.
Oh, that was epic.
Yeah. Yes. I feel like there's such good timing in there already. And it doesn't take a whole lot of tweaking, because like there's a couple of moments where it almost sounds like you could like feel the speed ramp from the audio.
Exactly. So even this part here, like, so the beat hits right there, so I can just trim that. And this is like what the slight adjustment I'll do for like, making it work with the song. But and like that's feels
very cool.
It's feeling good. Like even here, I think the beat hit right there. So yeah, right there. So a tool that I like to use is the, what's it called? Rolling edit. So instead of going like this and wasting all that time, I can just click N on the keyboard, drag this over. And this hits right there, so we'll move that around. I like that.
We know the song is a hit because you and I are both just like, every time I hear it, I'm bobbing my
Right.
head. People in the chat are like, I'd listen to this on its own. Where did you source the music from? Are you getting these from
Artlist?
Artlist? Great
Yeah.
site. Cool.
So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that song. I'm just gonna listen to the other ones just to see, you know, you never know. The other option. Groovy. So that's pretty
groovy.
good too.
It's groovy.
It's
A little bit of different vibes, but
yeah. It's cool. It's cool. Let's hear the third one.
Everybody get up.
Yeah, I think the first one.
I think so too. I think there's definitely good parts to both the second and third. I think I'd probably pick the first, third, second, but
Yeah.
I think you nailed the first one, and the timing is such that it just works on its own. So
Right.
I think you got a good track. And yeah, so Artlist is a great site for those in the chat that are looking to use, you know, other music like this. Artlist.io, the Music Bed, Epidemic Sound. There's a lot of resources out there that you can, you know, source tracks like this. So they're really awesome.
There's even free tracks on YouTube too. Like some people will label their tracks as like royalty free or like free for whatever use. So you can even do it like that too.
And there's actually in the audio panel in Premiere, you can pull tracks that are sourced, I believe, from Epidemic Sound that are, you know, aggregated in Premiere already. So if you don't have an account,
cool.
you can actually pull some. But you have an awesome track here.
Yeah. So where's that beat?
Right there.
So I'm thinking.
What if you drag the track to the right a little bit? Because you definitely want to keep that.
Yeah. But I'm just, well, let's see. Yeah, this kind of works. Or I was thinking even I could even shorten this part. Like, it doesn't need,
that's true.
Just trim it a little bit.
Yeah, because you've timed so much of the rest already.
Well, either way, it's going to move everything over. So
yeah.
No, you know what? I'll do it how we just did it. I'll move this over here. Yeah, that's cool. Right there.
Cool. Anyone in the chat? Last questions. We got about 5 minutes left here. So any other questions as Noah?
Maybe a cool transition here. Like if there was like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I feel like that's like where you could have a really cool, like some sort of punch in zoom transition or some sort of, you know.
Let me just try something. Split that there, drop that there. I always like to try things, you know, if you're not sure, you just try it.
Hey, you try it and it doesn't work, then you stick with what you have.
Gradient ramp. Where is it? Transition, gradient wipe. Yeah, here. And let's start transition completion.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
See how this works. Let's soften it up a bit. And let's just render preview. Okay.
It looks awesome. I feel like, yeah, I feel like you can continue to, really like finesse some of those little hits. But the song works really, really well. Footage looks very well colored, and it just feels like I'm about to go buy this beer and have a drink tonight. It's definitely making me want this specific beer.
Yeah. How much time do we have?
You got about 2 minutes, 3 minutes left.
Okay, so I'm just gonna quickly say something about sound design. So I'm gonna mute this track, and then what I would do is when I add sound design, I like to add sounds to help with transitions between clips, and also to add context to the video to help tell the story. So for example, I have this birds chirping kind of ambient sound. So I'm gonna add that to the end here, and let's just trim it so that it's not so long. And what I would do also is maybe lower it a little bit. You can just to add a bit of like, and let's see. Pouring beer, we obviously need this one.
Obviously.
So, right. Probably I won't start it at that shot, but I'll like continue it. So like, because right here is when we should hear it. That's
awesome.
And my favorite sound effect of all the transition sound effects is the whoosh.
Me too. Me too.
Or maybe we would just start it like.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is
sounding great. All right.
Then we can add some text there, and that would be it.
Cool. Oh, well, thank you, Noah, so much. I want to definitely see the final product because this looks amazing so far. And thank you for joining us for day 2 and for these last 2 days. You really taught everyone a lot, myself included. So appreciate it. And everyone in the chat, thank you for joining us, and make sure to check out Noah's work. As we wrap up here, a couple housekeeping items. Stay tuned for the XD Creative Challenge encores right after this stream, where we'll continue the logo theme challenges, followed by a new episode of Graphic Glow Up with Voodoo Val. And a final announcement, Adobe Live will not be airing Masterclass this Friday due to a global day off at the Adobe offices. They deserve it, so they will be taking one. That being said, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Noah. It's been a pleasure. And I hope to continue to see your work out in the world every single day, because it's incredible. So thank you very much.
Appreciate it, James. Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care, everyone.
Bye, guys.